Now, let's get to some solutions. What do we do when we find ourselves tempted to slothful procrastination? Well, I'm going to give you 3 weapons to use here. But before I put them on the screen, let me say this. Let me encourage you to try to use all 3 of these. I mean, you can use any 1 or 2. Yeah, may not work. But I believe if you'll use the 3 things I'm going to put on the screen right now, it is going to give you a set of tools that will be a discipline, a structure in your life that will allow God to help you through this situation. To use a theological term, it will be a means of grace, a means of God coming and helping us through this situation. So let's see what these 3 disciplines are that we want to build into our lives to overcome slothful procrastination. Number 1, and probably the most powerful of the 3, is to learn the power of a deadline. The power of a deadline. Because, folks, very little ever seems to happen until we put some form of a deadline on it. Let me just illustrate for you what I mean on this point. I would like to see your hand right now if you could say, Rick, when I get home this next week, I've got a lot to do. Matter of fact, I'm not even sure I'm going to get everything done this next week. Is there anybody here like that that's got a lot to do, not even sure you're going to get it? Oh, look at that. Practically everybody raises their hand when you ask that question. Doesn't matter where I'm at, doesn't matter who I'm talking to, about everybody in the room will say, got a lot to do this next week, not even sure I'm going to get it all done. Okay, now, what if this were to happen? You get home from the conference, you walk into the kitchen, little red light on your telephone answering machine is blinking, and so you walk over and you push the play button. Now, on that recording is the voice of an old friend of yours. Maybe somebody you hadn't heard from in many, many years. They live way down in North Carolina where I'm from, and they start talking and they say, you know what? Something very strange has just happened. My wife and I were going to take a trip over to the Holy Land. We were going to go over there and we were going to see the place where Jesus actually walked. We were going to see the Garden of Gethsemane and the Mount of Olives and all of those other beautiful and majestic places that are talked about there in the Scriptures. We were going to stay in the nicest 5-star luxury hotels. Our meals were going to be catered in by the finest chefs that country could produce. The ground transportation and the air travel over and back. We're going to be first class all the way. I'm talking about this was going to be the trip of a lifetime. But now, here at the last minute, something's come up and we can't take this trip after all. And to make things even worse, our travel agent made a mistake. And instead of the tickets originating here at the Charlotte, North Carolina airport where we live, they accidentally made them to originate at the airport closest to your hometown. And so when I saw that, I just couldn't help but think of you and your spouse. You say you got a really long message capacity on your machine here. So I'm just wondering, is there any possibility that you guys could take this trip for us? Now, the only problem is you got to be down there at the airport 1 week from tomorrow morning. Okay, now, could I see your hand if you think you could probably get everything done this next week? Of course you could, because what would happen? You would immediately cut through and start working on those most important things, those things you knew had to get done, so you'd be down there at the airport, because there is a rule that says work will expand to fill the time we allow for it. Think about that. Isn't it true? You know, you give yourself an hour to clean the house. How long is it going to take you? It's going to take you an hour. You give yourself 45 minutes to get that same job done, chances are pretty good you'll probably get it done in 45 minutes. Work will expand to fill the time we allow for it. And there are many applications of this for us as Christians. I know that for years, I had the thought in mind that I wanted to read the Bible through cover to cover, but you know what? It just never seemed to happen until somebody gave me one of those little read the Bible through in a year checkoff charts. You've seen those before, right? And I'm going to confess, I didn't quite get it done on time, but I did get it done because it gave me that system of deadlines that kept me moving forward. Very little is ever going to happen until it has that deadline. You know, probably about every person in this room right now could think of somebody that you've been thinking about sharing your faith in the Lord with, but it's never quite happened. You know why it never seems to happen? It never happens because we never put a deadline on it. What we need to do is just say, God, unless you clearly show me otherwise within a week or a month or whatever period of time from today, I'm going to do something. I'm going to give them a little gospel tract. I'm going to invite them to church next week. I'm going to do something, because until it has that deadline on it, folks, it probably just is not going to happen.